support that you guys have given me. And just want to say that today is going to be a fantastic episode because we're going to be talking about all the toxic shit that they put in your food, right? All these hidden ingredients that they put in that you really never know about unless you do some deep research. So we're gonna dive into all of that. But first and foremost, for all of you watching on YouTube, whether live or on replay, make sure you hit that subscribe button in your lower right hand corner so you can get notified of anytime I go live or any other videos I do. So if you are interested in learning more about the body, natural health, natural diet, detoxing, things of that nature, naturopathy, the terrain model, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you can stay in touch. If you are watching on replay, make sure you give me a pound replay so I know, and feel free to interact even if it is on replay because I will get back to you on future videos. Um, Look, I have to leave out this put out this disclaimer. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a medical professional. I am merely sharing my philosophies on natural health and diet through my array of studies on the topic and my applied experience as well. But like I said, we're going to talk about what toxins are in your food. And this follows up on the last few videos, on the last few lives I did about number one, what cooking does to your food, and why we're addicted to food. All these play a part. All these work in tandem with each other, and they're all kind of set up by design. So it's really important to understand everything that's happening when you eat, even though we think it should be such a basic concept that we don't have to think about. Unfortunately, throughout just countless amounts of years, the way our diets have changed, this has changed. Our approach to it has to change in order for us to be on a healthy path. And it's unfortunate, but it's just the nature of kind of the world we live in today. We live in a world where the corporations and those who are controlling the food, the food outtake per se, is is focused on a monetary is focused on a monetary motivation, not a betterment of humanity motivation. So once you understand that, then you start to realize, okay, now I get it. I understand why they're doing these things. I understand why preservatives are so important. I understand why shelf life is so important. Things of that nature, right? If you're shopping on the inside of the grocery store versus the outside of the grocery store, there's a completely different completely different mindset that goes into that, right? Processed food versus actual live natural foods. And look, the moment you put heat to food, the moment you start to cook your food, you're changing the chemistry of that food. You're changing some alkaline foods into acid forming foods, or you're degrading a lot of the nutrition into that food. We've talked about that in past videos. But I want to dive even deeper and kind of show you a few things that are in your food that you probably don't realize are in your food, and kind of the effects of some of those different things. Now, when I say your food, obviously I'm not speaking to everybody, but I'm speaking to the majority of people who are obviously, if you're watching this, you're interested in learning more about health, learning more about the natural diet, but you might not be there yet. There's still some things that you may eat, or maybe you just haven't made that leap. What's up, Ashley? Appreciate you watching. Thank you. I appreciate it. But yes, we want to dive into those hidden ingredients because these look, I always say there's really only two foundations of disease within the body, but there's really only one, and one, it's over acidity within the body. But I like to break them down in two because it's easier to speak about these two different things. Obviously, acidic foods is one, and then the other one is toxicity. Now, toxicity comes in many different forms, whether that be the air that we breathe, or the household cleaners that we use, or the water that we're drinking, and plus the food and the clothes that we wear. A bunch of different things have toxic elements to them. But I want to dive into the toxic elements that go into a lot of the manufactured food that we are eating on a day to day basis. So let's jump into this. Like I said, feel free to interact, comment throughout the show. I love to hear your thoughts, any questions as well. So the first thing I want to talk about today is um, acrylamides. Now, I could be completely butchering how that's said, but it doesn't matter. You see it, it is what it is. If you see this ingredient in some of your foods, you'll know what I'm talking about. But acrylamides form when starchy foods are cooked without moisture, such as frying or baking. Foods that contain some of the highest levels of acrylamides are bread, fried potatoes, and potato chips. Coffee and dry roasted nuts also have a fair quantity of acrylamides too. These compounds form when an amino acid called asparagine reacts with sugars. The concern is that acrylamides are a carcinogen that increases the risk of cancer. One study found a link between consuming more acrylamides and damage to the hemoglobin inside red blood cells in humans. Now, this is something that I'm sure most of you have never even heard of. I would be lying to you if I said before I started researching this that I heard of it. But when we're talking about bread, how much of us eat bread? When we're talking about fried potatoes, whether that be French fries or any type of potatoes that you're frying yourself, and potato chips, like potato chips is probably the most common snack that people eat on a day-to-day basis. And then you add in coffee and dry roasted nuts, and now you get a full gamut of this particular toxin, this particular chemical that is utilized in the food, that is created within the food when it is cooked, and can cause major harm to your body. So, a lot of times when I talk about the difference between eating cooked food and eating raw food, this is a big part of it because whatever you buy or whatever you cook, you're always adding something to it. Like even if you took, per se, like a raw piece of chicken and you throw it on the grill, you're probably going to season it with a bunch of stuff. And then through that heating process, it's going to degrade the nutrition, the little bit of nutrition you were getting from that piece of chicken. But also adding all those extra ingredients is also going to add some added toxic elements to it. If you're eating something that's already processed and then you're cooking or whatever, that's where you start to have all these different chemical compositions that come about and cause issues within the body. See, with raw food, you don't have that. You just have the food. When you look at the ingredients of an apple, it's an apple. An orange, it's an orange. A banana, it's a banana. Your salad, whatever it's made of is the ingredients. There isn't any added elements to it. So anything added to a food is ultimately going to have a bit of toxicity to it because it's foreign to the body. But let's keep it moving. Heterocyclic amines. Now, these form when you cook beef, pork, or lamb to high temperatures in meats until well done. An example is the grill marks you get on a steak. Those marks are heterocyclic amines that form when creatine in meat encounters high temperatures. According to the NIH, rodents exposed to heterocyclic amines develop malignant tumors in a variety of organs at a higher rate. Poultry, such as chicken, also form HCAs when you cook it at high temperatures or grill it, and you find heterocyclic amines in cigarette smoke and car exhaust fumes. Now, some people might say, "Well, I don't eat my beef, pork, or lamb until it's well done." Okay, I completely understand that, but most people do, especially when they put it on the grill. When you put something on the grill, now I know people get their steaks rare and things of that nature, but when we're talking about pork and definitely when we're talking about chicken, most people are going to cook them until they are well done for obvious reasons. So heterocyclic amines is something that is ever apparent in society as far as people consuming this, but it's important to understand that why it's happening. So when you cook it at that high temperature, it's going to create this. That's why I always say, as soon as you put fire to food, as soon as you put heat to food, you are changing the chemical composition of the food. Let's keep it moving. Polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. Now, these PAHs are another chemical that forms from the reaction of creatine in meat with high heat. Like PAHs, they're a probable carcinogen, right? So that's another aspect of cooking meat and cooking food, even cooking veggies for that matter. Potassium bromate, added to the flour of many packaged baked goods, banned in several countries, including Brazil, Canada, and the European Union and the United Kingdom. Despite health concerns, potassium bromate is legal for use in the US, and the FDA hasn't reviewed it since at least 1973. Why does that surprise me? Many packaged goods are made with flour that may contain potassium bromate, an additive linked to cancer. The chemical is added to flour to strengthen the dough and allow it to rise higher, benefits that have led many U.S. companies to embrace it. See, this is where that balance comes into play, right? So you have these companies, whether it be Pillsbury or Nestle or Sara Lee, right? These companies, Mrs. Baird's, these companies that make bread. And they have to ask themselves the question from a financial perspective, man, if we add this chemical, this potassium bromate, it's going to strengthen the dough and allow it to rise higher, right? That's a benefit to the company. So they're weighing that out versus the long-term effects of what this does to humanity, the neurological effects of what this does, because the chemistry that you're adding to your body is always going to have a neurological effect, always, because it is foreign chemistry going into your body. So Sara Lee ain't thinking about that. Ms. Baird's ain't thinking about that. Pillsbury's not thinking about that. Duncan Hines isn't thinking about that. But we, as the consumer, as the purchaser, have to think about that. We have to, because we're responsible. We need to be accountable and responsible for our own bodies and for our family to be able to pass this. And I like to say we need to be accountable for each other and share this info. That's why I'm here doing this every Wednesday and all the times that I share all the info that I have received. Because like I said, those companies, they're not going to do it for you. They have other motivations. They're not motivated by you getting on the path to health. They're motivated by a monetary standpoint, plain and simple. Now, BHA and BHT, synthetic antioxidants used to prevent spoilage by stopping fats and oils from going rancid. It extends shelf life of the products. Health concerns, they disrupt hormonal balance and potential carcinogenic effects if used in high dosage, right? And it gives you some of the limits there. What's it found in? Chips, cereal, crackers, gum, meat, breads, facial cleansers, processed foods. BHA and BHT is all over the place. Now, back to what are they and why they're used: to prevent spoilage by stopping fats and oils from going rancid. You are changing the chemistry of those foods and the biology of those foods. Because fats, it doesn't matter whether it's fats, whether it's proteins, whether it's sugars, they're going to go through their progression of their own living vitality. Fats go rancid, right? Carbs and sugars, they ferment. That's just the natural progression. And by adding BHT and BHT, you are stopping that from happening. I get a lot of people that wanna challenge me when it comes to oils, whether that be grapeseed oil or whether that be olive oil, or whether that be avocado oil, saying that some of these oils are good for you. And the first thing I say to them is, well, how is that oil shelf stable? Because that's all they are. Oil is fat. There's really no nutritional value in oil. It's fat. It's isolated fat from wherever it's coming from, whether it's coming from the olive, whether it's coming from the avocado or the grapeseed. It's fat. Well, how does it shelf stable and how does it not go rancid? Well, there has to be some form of preservative, and this is one of them. BHA and BHT. And it's a chemical. So therefore, it completely negates any form of nutrition that you think it may be giving you. Number one, it's all fat. Number two, it has to be preserved. You're not isolating it yourself. You're not taking an avocado and isolating it yourself and using it immediately. So how's it not going rancid? Just things to think about. Let's keep it moving. Man, I'm gonna butcher this. We're gonna call this ADA. But it's a chemical foaming agent of choice. It's mixed into polymer plastic gel to generate tiny gas bubbles, something like champagne for plastics. The results are materials that are strong, light, spongy, and malleable. ADA is not food, as food has been defined for the most of the as food has been defined. It is an industrial chemical added to bread for the convenience of industrial bakers. Subway uses this chemical in its loaves along with Starbucks, Wendy's, McDonald's, Arby's, Burger King, and Dunkin' Donuts. Now, Subway has kind of been put on blast for this. And they have argued that, utilizing it in small quantities, doesn't do any damage, blah, 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 blah. The same thing you hear from every corporation, because what they do is they take the isolated amount and look at it in a very micro viewpoint, and think that because that amount doesn't exceed what, say, the FDA or one of these other organizations say is a poisonous amount, and think that they're okay for doing that, right? They think that they're okay because it doesn't exceed that amount by that corporation that's been put in place to make these rules for us. But they never account for the long-term effects of continued use of that particular chemical. They can't measure the long-term effects of what that does to somebody neurologically. Not just neurologically, but in its totality from a health perspective. But once again, this comes down to those corporations making that decision. Well, look, if I can utilize a chemical that is going to help in the process of the convenience of our bakers that are making bread or save us money on that end, then they're going to do it, because most people aren't aware of these things. And even when they're brought to the forefront, man, there's so much spin control that's put on from a media standpoint that most people never hear of it, or it gets washed away in a couple weeks. That's the marketing power of these places. We're talking, look, Starbucks, Wendy's, McDonald's, Subway. These are billion-dollar corporations that are billion-dollar corporations because they have exploited us to thinking that they're actually serving us healthy food or food in general, but it's not. All these quote unquote foods that these places are selling us are processed in some way, manufactured, are exploited to our own addictions that make us ultimately buy these foods. They know what we like. They've tapped in to what we fiend for as people, and they're more concerned with that than they are with the health of their people. Now this ADA is also in foam insulation. It's also utilized for a lot of yoga mats as well as flip-flops and footwear. So when you're buying your yoga mat, understand, that there's chemicals that come along with that. I purchased a couple yoga mats and they came and they smelled horrible. It didn't matter how long you sat them out or whatever. I mean, they were just doused in different types of chemicals. One of them being ADA. I immediately sent those back and made sure that I got a yoga mat that was chemical free and toxin free. These are things to think about. People don't think about that. They go to Walmart, they go to Target, they buy, or they go on Amazon, they buy a yoga mat, and then it is what it is, right? I got a yoga mat. I'm not thinking about the chemicals on said yoga mat. No, I buy some flip flops. I'm gonna buy some flip flops. I buy some clothes that comes in packaging. I throw it in the washer. We're good, right? Things of that nature. But a lot of these chemicals are embedded in the fibers of what they're made in. But obviously, if you're consuming them, that's even worse. So let's keep it moving. What's up, Tanya? How are you? Good to see you. Propyl gallate, a preservative used in vegetable oil, meat products, and chewing gum, among other products, may cause hormone disruption and has been linked to an increased risk of asthma, hyperactivity, and even cancer. Now, look, when we go to the grocery store and we buy, some Trident, some Dentine, I don't buy gum anymore, but Wrigley, whatever type of gum it is, right? We don't think of these things, right? We don't think that there's actual chemicals in these things. We think of gum, oh, it's gum, right? But there is. And I want all of you out there who are still on the path to getting on the path to buying the right things and to eating healthy foods to start to get in the mindset of looking at what you're ingesting. We've been conditioned and we've kind of went through our whole lives just eating stuff, picking out stuff that we're used to and not really dissecting or doing an audit on what we're truly putting in our body. Next time you get a package of gum or next time you get a vegetable oil, whatever the case may be, right? Look at it and look at what's in it, right? And a lot of things are hidden that they don't even put in there or give it a different name. If you see something that you don't recognize, Google it. We all got our phones on us. You'll be in the grocery store. I do this all the time. And I will Google, well, what is this? And I'll look at what it is and say, what side of chemistry is this on? The acidic side or the alkaline side? Betterment, detriment. That duality, always. And if it doesn't pass my test, then it's not getting picked up. Right? And look, I'm not perfect. I'm not, even where I want to be. I'm still on my path. So I still do eat a tiny bit of cooked food. So these thoughts are constantly going in my head, and I'm just trying to implore to all of you to start doing the same things. Sodium benzoate, a preservative used mostly in carbonated drinks, fruit juice, salad dressing, and fermented foods. When combined with absorbic acid, citric acid, and vitamin C, it has been linked to an increased risk of cancer. The reaction between sodium benzoate and any of these three compounds forms a benzene, a chemical associated with blood cancer. There are over 20,000 products in EWG, and if you haven't checked out EWG's food scores, check it out because they'll let you know. They do some real good research on exactly what's in the foods that you're eating. But their food scores database that contains both sodium benzoate and absorbic acid, citric acid, and vitamin C. 20,000 products. All these products you see on the screen right now all have sodium benzoate. Now, I know on here it says that it's linked to these things when they're combined with absorbic acid, citric acid, and vitamin C. But sodium benzoate on its own is a toxin. I mean, what side of chemistry do you think that is on when you ingest it? So remember, a lot of these studies, a lot of the things that I'm showing you today are to kind of meet you where you're at. They're on the allopathic side of the spectrum. Ultimately, I want us to get away from that and understand what the gold standard of health is and understanding that everything outside of that is a step away from it. But for the sake of meeting everyone where they're at, this is a plain and simple. When you get a fruit juice, when you get mostly any juice from the grocery store, it's going to have sodium benzoate. You got pickles on there. You got lemonade. People drink lemonade all the time. They think because it's lemons, somewhat healthy. No, it's not. Minute Maid lemonade is horrible for you. And Minute Maid orange juice. How many people drink Minute Maid orange juice or Tropicana orange juice or even Simply orange juice? Remember, Simply Orange is owned by Coca-Cola. And if you don't think they're cutting corners, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so now let's get to water. Because this is, man, look, everybody drinks water, right? Water's kind of the, it's the ultimate liquid, right? The solution to pollution is dilution, right? We all need to be drinking water. And I may do a live specifically on water because there is a split in the natural community, when it comes to water, whether it be distilled or spring, or even in some cases, um, whether or not to drink water at all, but that's a whole nother conversation. But when it comes to bottled water, laboratory testing by EWG has found all sorts of nasty stuff in popular brands of water, disinfectant byproducts, industrial chemicals, prescription drugs, and even bacteria. PET plastics, the kind used to make plastic water bottles marked with a 1 on the bottom, can contain dozens of chemical additives, manufacturing impurities, and breakdown byproducts. That's more than 80 additional contaminants that could be leaching into your water. The study analyzed various popular brands of bottled water from several countries, including Aquafina, Dasani, Evian, Nestle Pure, San Pellegrino, and Steiner? Haven't seen that one. From the United States. They discovered a worrying prevalence of microplastic contamination. On average, the bottled water tested contained 325 microplastic particles per liter. Various types of plastics were found within the bottled water samples, including polypropylene, used to make bottle caps, and polyethylene, well, that's PET, we'll call that PET, the plastic typically used for the bottle themselves. This points to the likelihood of the contamination stemming from the bottling process and packaging. Now, this is crazy because, like, for most of us, this is where the mindset comes into play. For most of us, hey, I'm drinking water instead of soda. I'm drinking water instead of Capri Suns or Gatorade, right? Yes, step in the right direction, for sure. But also understand, like, the plastic aspect, the leaching aspect of drinking water in a plastic bottle. Case in point, I drink Mountain Valley water. If you search and I've done my research, and this is the reason I've chosen to drink this water, because from a spring water standpoint, it is considered to be the most healthy water that you can get, and I get it in glass bottles. So when I get those massive jugs, but they're glass bottles. So I don't have to worry about the leaching. My family doesn't have to worry about the leaching. When you're drinking water in plastic bottles, you have to be cognizant of the microplastic particles. Not to mention the company themselves and what they're putting in the waters. A lot of them, they're just getting city water and putting in a plastic bottle. And that's a whole nother conversation. But I would just advise you, once again, and some of you may be saying, man, this is just a lot of work. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in right now, because look, you can't trust anybody. One of my favorite, mantras for myself is, if you can't trust everything, you have to question everything. So yes, you have to question the bottled water you're drinking. I've been in numerous discussions or debates with people about alkaline water, added alkaline water. It's water. Anytime you're adding anything to the water, you are changing the chemical composition of it, and you are ultimately making it foreign to the body. So you need to get as pure of water as you can. So when you're drinking water that is naturally coming from the earth, that is the closest you're going to get to natural water. Now, some argue, especially in the natural hygiene community, about distilled water, because our water, just based on the earth and the soil and everything going on the earth, that it is ultimately added chemicals to our water, even the natural water. So the best way to go is distilled. And I get that argument. I do. I still lean more to the Spring Valley. I'm sorry, to the spring water, because the electricity within that water is of a higher ilk than from the distilled standpoint. I want the electric water. I want the water that is within nature right now. I don't want to have to do anything to my water. I want it straight from the earth. Now, is it easy to get? No. I mean, I like to use this example. I was in Colorado a couple months ago, and there was water that came straight from the mountain. Literally on the side of the road, there's the pipe that comes out, and you can get water straight from the mountain. So we stopped, we got some of that water, and when I tell you it was the most pure tasting water I've ever tasted in my life, I'm not exaggerating. It was absolutely unbelievable. If I lived in the area, I would go there as many times as possible, as many people were doing with my glass bottle, and I would be getting as much of that water as I possibly could because it is naturally occurring. It is the closest thing you're going to get. Unfortunately, not all of us live in mountainous regions. Not all of us have that type of access. So we have to do the best that we can. So what I implore to all of you to do is to just do the extra work. You know what I mean? If you like drinking bottled water, if that's your thing, out of plastic bottles, make sure it's from the best company that's, taking the best care of it, this, that, and the other, and try to get it out that plastic as fast as possible. If you buy it in the plastic, don't let it sit there for weeks upon weeks, get it into some type of glass jug or some sorts. If you have the ability to order glass jugs, do it. Do it. If you have the ability to order Mountain Valley, I would say do it. If you have the ability to get a filtration system within your house, definitely do it. But this is something serious because think about it. We drink water every single day. And this isn't even talking about the aspects of taking a shower or a bath. This is literally about consumption. We'll touch on that on a future episode. So I know I'm spending a lot of time on the water thing, but it is extremely important. It's great. Look, there's levels, right? If you're stuck on sodas and alcohol and stuff like that, and that's the majority of your liquid consumption, yeah, just get to water as soon as you can, whatever water you can, because, yeah, that's a step up. But for those of you who are already drinking majority water as your liquid of choice, start taking those next steps to take it to that next level. Because in the end, it all matters. All right, all right. You hit me with an emoji if you feel what I'm saying. If you feel what I'm saying, give me an emoji in the comments. Something. All right. So here's a study right here. Studies find that microplastics in 93% of bottled water. Lowest and highest number of plastic particles found per liter of bottled water by location and brand. So Nestle is number one. Number one by far. Then Bisleri, it looks like. The Gerolsteiner, Aqua, Pure, Aquafina, Minalba, Wahaha, Dasani, Evian, and San Pellegrino. And those are out of those brands. I mean, there's so many other brands now. I can't even name the amount of brands. Smart Water. And look, there's been a lot of negative stuff that have come out about Smart Water. And most of it, even Fiji, right? Because I used to drink a lot of Fiji. And not saying that Fiji's anywhere near any of these that are up here on the screen right now. But, when you start to look into it, you realize, okay, yeah, Fiji's better. But number one, it's still in a plastic bottle. You know what I'm saying? If you went back in the day, like say you go back, back when they used to deliver milk in glass bottles. Granted, it's milk, but they delivered in glass bottles. And they used to remember you used to be able to buy Cokes in a glass bottle. They don't do that anymore. Why? It's simple. Because it costs too much money. These corporations aren't going to pay for that. Nah, plastic is the ultimate equalizer from a monetary standpoint. Man, we're going to cut costs so much by using plastic. Oh, we're definitely going to do that. And it's unfortunately to the detriment of us. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, the pH aspect, right? Is it acidic or is it alkaline? Is it for the detriment of me or is it for the betterment of me? And just know that the minute you put fire to your food, you're changing the chemical composition. You are degrading the nutrition within that food. You're also burning out a lot of the digestive enzymes in that food. And it becomes foreign chemistry to your body. When you start adding in additional chemicals, toxic chemicals to your food, now you're just adding on to the problem. So when you look at that pH scale, it is severely drifting to the left towards more acidic every time you're doing one of these things. So do yourself a favor, do the due diligence on what you're eating. When you go grocery shopping, don't just pick something up and put it in your cart. Look at it. look at the ingredients. If there's something that you've never heard of or don't know what it is, do a quick Google search, right? I noticed that a lot of grocery stores don't have very good cell signals. And some of them, like Costco, they'll offer Wi Fi in there, so that's great, but others don't. And I wonder if that's by design. Because if you start actually looking at what some of these foods are actually made of, maybe you'd have some people that actually turn the other direction and go towards the produce section. I don't know. That's just me. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Thank you guys for watching. Everybody watching on the replay, feel free to chime in. I will definitely get to your comments. And if those watching live, I highly appreciate it. Like I said, everybody watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that subscribe button in your lower right-hand corner. I'm here pretty much every Wednesday at 11 a.m. I had to take a couple weeks off. We had our retreat, our Escape Within retreat. It was absolutely amazing in Arley, Alabama. I did a presentation on detoxing the mind and then detoxing the body. We have another one coming up in November. So if you are into this and you are, looking to better yourself, to do that self audit and to really invest in your own self care and self worth, or if you just have, you just want to be reconnected, reach out to us. It's escapewithin.love. Like I said, we're doing another retreat in November. And rooms are booking really, really fast. It's going to be on Surfside Beach in South Carolina. It's going to be absolutely amazing. I don't know what I'm doing yet as far as presentation or whatever the case may be, but I'm there the whole weekend. So, I had plenty of conversations about health at this last one. So, we could chat, we could talk about your current situation, your current diet, and really get into that. I do appreciate all the love. And be back next